Hey, what's going on? I'm Coach Brian Klepacki with Criticalbench.com. I'm a certified strength coach. I'm also a functional movement specialist. And a lot of the time I deal with people, maybe like you, that are looking for added stretching exercises to increase their flexibility. But not just flexibility, but also mobility. Mobility is just the ability to move freely. And one of the techniques that you should be considering, at least, if not using already, is a stretching style called PNF, or Proprioceptive Neuromuscular Facilitation. It's also referred to as the stretch, contract, relax type of stretching technique that is more used in clinical settings and also like therapeutic treatment types of settings like chiropractic care or physical therapy. So what is PNF stretching? Well, in short, like I just said, it's a stretch, contract, relaxation technique. It's a little more advanced in its approach to increasing flexibility, but it also has a great effect on the body and also the soft tissue and related to stretching and strengthening at the same time. There is a little bit of a period of isometric hold, or this is like think of your bicep like you squeeze, that's an isometric, and then you relax. There's a lot of cool stuff that happens in that muscle when this isometric hold is held, followed by a brief period of stretching. Now, you need to proceed with caution, though. Like I just said, this is a form of more advanced type of stretching. So you need to proceed with caution, as if you're not familiar with your limits, this can cause some added stress on that particular muscle, but also the joint surrounding the muscle, which could in return cause some more soft tissue damage. So proceed with caution, and you want to kind of build up a tolerance or a conditioning phase when going into this type of stretching. So what does a PNF stretching technique look like in real world? Well, you can use it a couple different ways. What I recommend is to break apart different muscle groups throughout the week. Because, again, this is going to be a little more lengthy process, so you might run out of time and actually forget to do your actual strength training if all you do is just stretch. Now, don't get me wrong, stretching does have a powerful benefit on the body, but PNF stretching is not like your other types of quick stretching. It takes time. So what does the timing look like? Well, like I said, you can do this probably twice a week for particular muscle groups. What I like to do is focus on groups and isolate that and just work on that particular muscle group at each time. So the timing, what you need to know is you're going to do 15 seconds, 3 to 8 seconds, and then 10 seconds. So the first 15 seconds is your traditional static hold. You're holding a stretch for about 50% of your max effort, followed by a brief period of 3 to 8 seconds of an isometric or a muscle contraction, followed by a 10-second period of more relaxation stretching. So I'm going to show you what that looks like here in just a moment, but you want to do this anywhere from 2 to 4 repetitions per hold or per stretch. This way you're going to make sure that you get into a good depth of stretching that you normally wouldn't get to just by holding a static stretch. So I know that it seemed like a lot to digest at first, but the main thing is when you're doing the stretching, it's the 50% max effort. Again, you're not trying to do 100%. It's just almost virtually impossible. So let's start, for example, what does the timing look like? Now, just for the sake of this video, I'm not going to do the full 15, 3 to 8, 10 for all the other exercises, but I want to give you a demonstration on what that actually looks like. So let's pretend we're stretching out the sternocleidomastoid, the side part of your neck here. What you want to do is you're doing a nice little stretch right here. This is stretching out the side of my neck. You're going to apply just a little bit of downward pressure, so I'm pushing my head this way gently. I'm going to hold this for about 15 seconds. Now what's going to happen is I'm going to contract my neck, pushing my head this way against my hand. You can't see that, but I'm going to hold that for about 3 to 8 seconds, 50% of my max effort, and then that's going to follow up with a 10-second relaxation or downward stretch. So that's the whole idea of the PNF stretch here. 15 seconds of a nice static stretch, followed by a brief period of contracting 3 to 8 seconds, and then another 10-second stretch using that hand just a little bit. Hopefully that makes sense. And that you're going to apply those numbers to all the different muscles in the body. So get ready. I'm going to share with you how to stretch out from the neck all the way down to the lower body using these PNF stretching techniques. So for the neck, we have 4 different types of exercises or holds or positions that will effectively stretch out your neck. So the first one, like I just showed you, is the lateral part of your neck here. So again, 15 seconds stretching, 3 to 8 seconds contracting, 10-second relaxing. Do that 2 times. Obviously you want to do both sides. Same numbers. Now if you feel like one side is tighter than the other, just maybe do an extra rep on that particular side. There's no harm going to be done by stretching out a little more. Now we're going to turn and do some rotational exercise or a rotational stretch. Still stretching out this part of it, but now we're going to go more towards the upper part of the trap and also a little bit part of your jaw here. So what I'm doing, I'm stretching this out. Now I can take my hand, push my chin towards my shoulder. Now what I'm going to try to do is move my chin this way. That's the contracting part of it. Relax, pull back. And I don't expect you to see a lot of movement going on, but you might be able to see my muscle contracting a little bit. Same thing on the other side. So here's my normal static stretch, and then as I push my chin towards my shoulder, I'm trying to push my chin away from my shoulder. I'm starting to contract here, about 50% of max effort. Relax again. Now we'll do forward and back. So when I'm looking down, I'm stretching out the back part of my neck. I can use my hand to push down just a little bit. Trying to push my head against my hand. My hand is resisting, and then relax. You can even use 2 hands if you so choose. Okay, push back and relax. All right, last for the neck, then we'll move on to the shoulders. Stretching out the front part of the neck here. Because a lot of people have tight necks here from always being in this position. So as you lean back, you can push your forehead back a little bit. Now what you want to do is try to push your head against your hands and then relax. Push your head against your hands, contract the front part of your neck here, and then relax. Again, take it easy. That was very little effort, but I felt like I got a deeper stretch in my neck by applying just a little bit of pressure. So let's move away from the neck and start working on the shoulders, and then we'll progress to the rest of the body from there. So the shoulders, as you know, is a ball and socket. This means your shoulder and your arm can move in a lot of different directions. You can't just use one particular angle to stretch out all the entire muscles of the shoulder. So even a slight 5-degree change in your arm position will affect it will change the effectiveness of this particular stretch. So this is just kind of a template to use when you're stretching out your shoulders, but we all know that the too familiar stretch across the chest. Okay, we just hold it, we stretch out the rear part of the delt. Now what I can do is apply pressure this way with my hand and then relax. Even if I change the angle here and relax, it's going to change the effectiveness of this stretch. I'm pushing against my hand. Relax. Anytime you go open, that's more of the upper part of the pec, outside the interior part of the deltoid there. So we'll get to there in just a second. But you can even go overhead. I'm pushing down and then kind of assist. Bunch of different exercises to use with the shoulder. I mean, you can even do rotator cuff stuff, you know, coming this way, pushing this way, and relax. The whole idea is that you just have to use this technique in all different planes of motion, especially with the shoulders, because, I mean, this is different from this is different from this. There's a whole bunch of different exercises you can use in that plane of motion. So be creative. No way is incorrect, long as you're holding those stretches appropriately for the length amount of time that I recommended. And then you can you can pretty much do an entire stretching routine just on your shoulders. So let's move on to the chest. That's going to require either a door frame or a post or a column of some sort. So let's go find one. All right, so for the chest, I've got my nice support beam column right here. There's 2 types of stretches you can use for the chest. You have your traditional pec fly type of stretch, but you also have a bent elbow stretch. So the first one, we'll do a traditional pec fly. Again, 50% of your max effort in that contraction. I'm not digging deep as hard as I can, getting the stretch. I'm gently leaning into it. 15 seconds goes by, and now what's gonna happen is I'm gonna try to engage my pec, kind of flex and do that little pec fly like you would, you know, if you're doing a pec deck or some dumbbell flies. Obviously, I won't be able to pull this down. I wish I could, that'd be pretty sweet. But what's gonna happen is that I'm contracting, and then as soon as I relax, I can start digging deeper, leaning into it a little more. Again, I'm not going to the point of pain by any means. Slight discomfort, but it actually feels good. Do it again, same thing. Obviously the other side. Now let's talk about that bent arm. This is gonna take a lot of strain off the bicep and also the shoulder, because the bicep inserts way up here, so you don't wanna, or it originates way up here, excuse me, for all those anatomy and physiology people out there. So I'm leaning into it, getting my good 15-second stretch. Contracting, squeeze, 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 50% max effort, relax. Squeeze, 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 relax. It feels good. I mean, those are two effective ways to stretch out your chest. So we just stretched out the chest, we've got the neck, shoulder, chest complete. Let's go to the lats and then work our way down to the lower back. So what you need now is a bench or some kind of firm tabletop or platform. So for the lats, there's pretty much one staple stretching technique that you have to use to apply to get your lats loosened up. And personally, I would spend more time on your lats than you would your chest. People have especially men have really tight lats, just from being rounded, from that upper cross syndrome here, having that forward head posture. You want to loosen up the back, and this is going to be your best lat stretch to loosen up those wings of yours. So what you need to do, square up to a bench. I might take a couple adjustments. I'm going to put my wrist and hands on the bench here. Now what I'm going to do is slowly sink my chest and my head down, trying to get low as I can. And what's going to happen now is I'm going to try to pull my hands through the bench, kind of doing like you're doing like straight arm pulls or med ball slams or even like a paddle board, something like that. So I'm pushing downward through the bench, contracting my lats, my serratus anterior, a little bit of my chest and triceps. And then next, I'm contracting, then relax. Try to get a little deeper. Now, if you have to move your hands around, that's completely okay. You can get different hand positioning if you want more elbows on. It doesn't really matter too much as long as you feel your lats being stretched out. Now, you can also go one arm at a time, pushing down, relax. Pushing down, relax. However you want to stretch out your lat, this is open up. You're open to do whatever you want. Again, be creative with it, but remember, you have to use those numbers for this particular stretch to be effective. All right, so upper back's done, middle back's done. Now let's go to the lower back. For all those people who suffer from chronic lower back pain, I got some awesome exercises that will definitely help loosen up your lower back. So we got the lower back. Everybody has some kind of lower back tightness, you know, when you wake up you get out of bed, you know, after sitting a long day behind the desk. These are two great stretches that you can use to help loosen up that lower back. The first one is a knee hug, squeezing, relax. Try to keep your hips up, your head and shoulders flat on the floor. I'm gently pulling my knees to my chest. What's gonna happen next, I'm gonna try to push my knees away from my chest. Then I'm going to pull again, trying to get my knees further into my chest. Now, sure, you're going to feel this in your glutes, your hamstrings, your groin. And relax. And relax. Again, it doesn't look like I did much, but I can definitely feel my lower back engaging, pushing my knees away. This one's, I think, more my favorite one for the lower back. So, start with 90 degrees on the knees. Cross the leg over like you would sit with your leg crossed. What's going to happen is I'm going to pull. I'm stretching out my left side. I'm using my right side as my movement. So I'm pushing my right leg, I'm using my right leg, driving my left side across the body. Make sure your head and shoulders stay flat. Breathe. Once you find that good point to stretch, you hold it. Now what's gonna happen, I'm gonna take my left leg, push against my right leg, which is resisting, and then relax even more. It's okay if your hips come up off the ground as well. Big breath in, hold it. I'm pushing my right leg down, or again, it's confusing, but pushing with my right leg, my left leg down. Contract and relax. Hopefully you can see that. Again, you got to try these out. If I'm confusing you with my words, just put me on mute for a second and just look at what I'm doing. Okay, so it's switched leg. I'm going to be stretching at my right side, my right lower back. My left leg is crossed, twisting. So with my left leg, I'm bringing my right leg over. Yeah, this side feels a little more tight for me. So I'm going to contract this, resisting it with my left, and then I'm going to relax again. Oh, yeah, it feels good. Do it one more time. Notice how my head and shoulders are still flat on the floor. That's very important because if I do this, I'm not getting the same effect if I have my back completely flat on the floor. So those are 2 exercises that you can use to stretch out the lower back. Next, hips. So we've got the hips. I incorporate the glutes in here as well, but hips, adductors, abductors, a whole bunch of different types of stretches you can use to get a little more limber within the hips of your body. I like to use this nice heavy resistance band. If you don't have one of these, don't be afraid. You can use a belt, you can use a towel, you can use a piece of rope. It really doesn't matter. I like to use a belt when I'm at home, just tied around the foot, whatever. You'll see what I'm doing here in just a second. So first one's a half kneel quad stretch. That's going to focus on that hip. So there's 2 progressions, or 1 progression for this. So your traditional stretch here, stretching out that hip flexor. Now what I'm trying to do is bring my knee this way. I'm contracting my hip flexor, lean into it. Very simple. If you've seen any of our other previous videos on hip flexor stretching, this is the one we usually go to. So what I'm doing now is trying to contract my hips, flex my hip, and then relax. The movement is subtle, but once you start contracting the quad and the hip flexor, and then you stretch it out, it feels really good. So if you want to up the ante a little bit, take your stretch strap. Again, this is more advanced. So now we're really stretching out the quad, which pulls on the hip flexor. The quad's all attaches way up here. Same thing, yanking, oh boy. Try to get balance. If you have to hold on to something, that's completely okay. Try to pull the foot close to the butt close as you can, comfortably. Same thing. Try to lift your leg this way, flex the hip, lean into it. Same thing. Drive that knee. There. Same can be done on the floor, so go right to your stomach. This one requires you to use a stretch strap. Now you might feel it's a little more in the knee, which is okay because the hips and the quads are they're neighbors. So one's gonna feel it. Now if you feel pain in your knee, just back off a little bit, okay? So what I'm trying to do in this position is get my knee up off the floor, drive my hips down to the floor, drive my knee down to the floor, and then relax and pull. So drive down, push, hold my knee against the floor, and then lift. Down. Contract and relax. It's exhausting. All right, so part of the hips as well, inner thighs. These are your adductors, okay? So for a butterfly stretch, get your feet squared up, sit up tall. And what you're gonna do is push your or grab your ankles with your hands, push your elbow or push your knees down with your elbows, get that nice static stretch, and from here, you're trying to bring your knees together, trying to close the book. But your elbows are resisting, okay? Relax, and you can even lean forward just a little bit. Don't round your spine too much. Try to keep a nice, tall, neutral spine as best as you can. Do this a handful of times. Before you know it, your legs are going to be further down, and you're actually going to be able to lean a little more into it, more than you thought you could. All right, last but not least, we have our hamstrings. So while you're still on the floor, still got your stretch strap, there's two types of hamstring stretches you can use. The most effective one that I'm going to show you, and then probably the most commonly used one, is this one right here. We always see athletic trainers stretching out football players on the sidelines or basketball games. This is the one that's usually the most commonly referred PNF stretch, the most popular one. So again, if you don't have one of these bands, just get a piece of rope, lasso it around your foot, get a towel. So the whole idea, you got to make sure there's a couple things you have to make sure you do to make this possible. You got to keep your hips down. You got to keep your head and shoulders down. And now my left leg, look at my left leg. My toes are pointed up, my knee is locked. I'm not rolled out. My knee's not bent. I'm trying to keep everything in line as it should be. So from this position, I am trying to push my foot or my heel down to the floor and relax. So this is about my limit right here. And it's not great, but I'm trying to make sure. I mean, I could pull it back further if I let my body get out of alignment. So I'm holding it, pushing my foot down to the floor, resisting it with the band. Pull back a little harder. Obviously, you want to do the same thing on the other side. And then one more stretch that you can do with the hamstring. This one requires just a little bit more creativity, and it's usually best done with a partner. So what you do is pretty much hold your foot out or your leg out. You grab and then relax. So you're contracting your hamstring, pushing it down to the floor, and then relax. So you're kind of just inchworming your way closer to your foot while pushing your heel down. If I don't push my heel down, I still feel a stretch, but not as much as I'm trying to activate my hamstring, and then relax and lean into it a little more. So again, a whole bunch of different types of exercises you can use to get the best out of PNF type of stretching. Now, I'm sure there are a couple different types of stretches I forgot to use, but these are the main ones. If you have an extra stretch or something else you'd recommend, post it now in the comment section. I love to learn. So if there's something I did forget to mention, or if you think that there's a better way to stretch out a particular muscle through PNF stretching, please let me know. I would love to hear from you. So that's pretty much it, how to stretch the entire body through PNF stretching. Again, proceed with caution, 50% max effort. In summary, you want to make sure 15-second static stretch first, 3 to 8 second contraction, followed by a brief maybe 5-10 second relaxation or further static stretch, 2 to 3 reps per muscle group, and don't forget to change it up and proceed with caution. Have fun doing this, and you're going to see some awesome gains within your stretching game. So before you go, there's something I'd love to share with you. It's a report that we wrote. It's called Why Stretching Won't Make You Flexible. It's an awesome read. It's free, and it's loaded with some valuable content. There's a couple different ways you can get it. One way is to go to this corner right where I'm pointing. There's a little arrow under this video here. You click the arrow, that's gonna drop open up our video description area. There's a link at the top that says criticalbench.com/stretching. Click the link, give us your email, the report's on its way to you right away. An easier option is simply click this box right here. Click it, give us your email, and the report's on its way to you. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel by clicking over here. And also check out this other stretching video that I know you're going to find helpful. Other than that, comments, questions, suggestions, we'd love to hear from you. I'm Coach Brian. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. See you soon.